So, Shonda, for those who are not used to big-time softball in college and may not know where you're at, please tell the Eagle faithful what you've been doing the last several years.
Yeah, I'm entering my 9th year at Indiana University. Prior to that, I spent 18 seasons at Marshall. I spent 1 year at IU Indy. And before that, I got my great start at someplace special, Ashland, Ohio.
That you did, and we'll get into all of that here in a second. But let's take you back to your softball playing days. You're originally from Ohio and decided to play at UNC Greensboro. So was there ever a thought of coming to Ashland? Were they on the radar? How was that in the recruiting process?
Actually, yes, Karen Linder was the coach at the time, and she had recruited me. I even paid my room deposit, I think, back then. Right probably towards late in my senior year, I decided to go down to UNC Greensboro. And then the neat thing about it, when I was coming out, I really wanted to stay in college athletics, be a GA. And so I reached out to Karen, and she said, as of right now, they didn't have a paid GA. And so I still stayed in touch with her. And then she gave me a call and said that women's basketball was looking. And the unique thing about the position was it would have the opportunity, this person to have the opportunity to work with volleyball, softball, and basketball. So that was kind of unique.
That was back in the mid-'90s, late '90s, where that was kind of commonplace that if you wanted to be a graduate assistant, it wasn't necessarily just one sport. It was other duties as assigned.
Right. Yeah, and it was an incredible opportunity. I know a lot of people thought, man, you have to work with 3 sports. And, Sue Ramsey was tremendous. I had an opportunity to come up and interview, with Sue. And, obviously, her career was just so amazing. And I learned so much. And then I never did get a chance to work for Karen. She had left, and so it was great. The power of who she got me connected into Ashland, and I had the privilege of working with Sheila, right, and then Sue with volleyball. So I got to work for 3 women who operated completely different. And I don't think I would have been ready to be a head coach at such a young age if I wouldn't have had that opportunity. And it's great. Now I still see Sheila at our conventions. She's still, even though she's retired, she's still actively involved.
Yes, she is.
Is she not, right? And just, such a great, she bleeds purple. So she has supported every coach that has come through there. And, just so thankful for my time at Ashland.
And on the softball GA side, you helped us to 53 wins in 1998, best team in program history to this day, doing it at a ball field which isn't nearly the ball field we have now on campus at Brookside Park. But that was a magical season, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. I tell you, when you look at the likes of the athletes, and I hate to name people because you'll leave so many people out, but you had Nat on the mound, you got Sonny, roaming the outfield, and I can go down and name every kid. Those were tremendous athletes that were in the program, and that was a joy to start my coaching career that way as a GA. And, we just had a lot. Winning's fun, right? And so that was a unique experience. And, I just was so grateful for my time in all 3 of those programs. But yeah, we had tremendous athletes within the softball program.
You mentioned Sheila Goulas, obviously a National Fast Pitch Coaches Association Hall of Famer. So what are the things that she taught you back in the early 90s that still stay with you today?
Well, I think as I've grown as a coach, I know what I value, right? I know who I am and where I'm going. And, I value my faith and my family, having fun, working and winning, right? And maybe not all in those order, but I tell you the fun aspect, is really where she just lights up a room. And, for me as a coach, I want when our players walk into the clubhouse, I want this to be the best part of their day. And, when you had a chance to rub elbows with Sheila on a regular basis, and you had a chance to show up at her practices, it was so free and so light, and you wanted to be a part of that, and so fresh. And so that's what I took away from my experience with her, is just we enjoyed it. And if you're not enjoying it, you work too hard to not enjoy it and be passionate about it. So she was so passionate as a coach. She has so much energy. She still does to this day. So I think the enthusiasm, the passion, the pride, I think that sums up what I took away from her.
We spent a lot of time in the press box at the new softball field talking about past experiences. So she's coming to all the home games, and she's still right there with the Eagles, that's for sure.
Right.
So in addition to being with Ashland in that time, you also coached professionally with the Akron Racers. So what was that like?
Yeah, I think the college game is a lot different in terms of not on the field, but the level of maturity that you're dealing with at the pro level. Right. When you're dealing with pros, they're elite athletes that they understand what it takes to be successful. When you're in the college space, there's a lot of distractions and there's so many things vying for young people's time. And so you're managing expectations of 18 to 22-year-olds. Whereas when you're dealing with a pro athlete, they are like, I control my expectations. I control my performance. I control my ability to get on the field. And so that was exciting. You're watching, ESPN plays regularly on a daily basis. And so you're going out and you're just maybe reigniting their fire a little different, because coming, out of the college landscape, is a unique style. And then you get to the pro level, you're just allowing them to fall in love with the game. And that's all they have to worry about, right, is playing ball. Not all, because we didn't have a viable option. They had other jobs, right? So it was probably people, that maybe were teachers at another time, or maybe they were GAs, or other types of professionals. It's nice to see, AUSL is up and running and MLB back them, because we didn't have quite that funding. But, Joey, invested so much into the game at Firestone Stadium. We had a beautiful ballpark. We had a great community of support. So softball is so well loved in that area. So I was so blessed to be able to, take the field with those athletes, to be in a part of an organization that treated us well, and then we got to be able to host the USA Olympic team.
Yes.
So, man, was that exciting. And so it just opened doors, tremendous opportunities. I'm just so grateful for the experiences that I've had. And you never knew where this game would take you. When I played for Dairy Queen when I was 8 years old, right? And, just a budding young kid just playing a game. But softball has opened up so many doors, and I'm just so grateful to still be a part of the game.
Absolutely. And you mentioned IUPUI starting there for a short period of time and quickly going to Marshall. So it was kind of a meteoric rise for you, going from AU to IUPUI, and now all of a sudden Marshall at the bigger D1 level. Yeah,
again, I credit my ability to coach at IUPUI, which is now IUI, because of my experience at Ashland. And, Al, gosh, I remember, I think he was the sports information director at the time. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes sports so cool is, it's the people. You win with people. And, I just remember seeing Al running around town, and he just was always so supportive. And he would tease me. I'd go out on interviews and get job offers. And he's like, I've never, met somebody that keeps getting these job offers and you keep turning them down. I was waiting for the right fit. And, when IUI came along, or IPUI at the time, they gave me the ability to be a head coach, my first opportunity at a young age. And I credit my experience at Ashland. I would have never been ready had I not worked, for Sue and Sheila. No way. And so I'm so grateful for the people that I met at Ashland to be able to cut my teeth at my first gig. And IUI, it was an incredible experience. I got to coach with my best friend as an assistant, who she went on and took over the program when I left. But I didn't intend to be there only 1 year. Sometimes, you get that call and it just seems like the right next move. And so then I landed at Marshall, and I didn't intend probably to be there for 18 years. But it just seemed like the right place at the right time for me and my family. I was able to grow my children. All three of my children were born there. So, I got a unique start, and, have never looked back.
And you'll be happy to know that Al is still running around Ashland to this day. So he is still doing that. Talk a little bit about, you mentioned it, when's the right time to make a change, because you go from Marshall to Indiana. What are those factors that kind of go in? Obviously, family's probably the biggest part of that. But what are the factors in timing, where, all that kind of stuff?
Well, you got to make a values-based decision. And I think as young people, we always think there's a bullseye. Like if you don't take this job or you don't make this move, you're never going to get what you're desiring or what your goals are. And it's not about that. It's about a target. And a target's pretty big, right? And my values, whatever I value, if they're on that target, I'm going to look at it. So the interesting thing, we came off a pretty good year at IUPUI, and I had gotten a call from a crosstown school, and everybody at the university thought I was probably going to take that job. I wouldn't have had to have moved. And I interviewed, and at the time, it just didn't seem right. We were returning, whoever coached prior to me did a great job of recruiting. We had a ton of freshmen that were really good. We lost in the semifinal round of the conference tournament. We had a winning record that hadn't been done in a long time. They were D2 prior, D1 my first year. And so I decided to stay. And for the first couple of weeks, I'd drive by the exit of that university. I thought, man, did I make the right decision? Because I was thinking, did I miss the bullseye, right? Well, wouldn't you know it, somebody on the search committee at Marshall had reached out to that institution and said, we need a candidate. Like, did you interview anyone? And they had floated my name. And that's how it happened. I got a phone call, after I had decided to stay from Marshall, and then this seemed like the right fit. And so I do encourage people, when you get an opportunity, you got to open the door and take a look at it, because you never know the networking, the power of who, kind of what that's going to look like. Because I did wonder, why did I turn that job down? Well, I turned that job down because there was something on the horizon that was not on my radar. And then there were times that things came up when I was at Marshall. And, maybe it was too far from home. Maybe, I was thinking I wouldn't have the right balance with my family. And my husband had an incredible job in Huntington. And those people treated him very well. He's in the insurance industry. Thornburg Insurance Agency did an incredible job of just, allowing him to have the opportunity he has. And so for me, when I looked at jobs, it was him being able to keep his opportunity. And then Indiana ended up being the right fit, and competitively, you're not going to pass up the opportunity to coach in the Big Ten and be a part of the richest, most historic conference in the land. And then when you come over to Bloomington, is an incredible place. So I think, all in all, the message to anybody is think about your values and what's on that target. Don't worry about the bullseye. You'll knock it out of the park if you make a good values-based decision.
Absolutely. I love it. So you mentioned your family. We like to talk in these Eagle Rewinds. We like to give our subjects a chance to dote and brag on their family. So go right ahead.
Yeah, at the time when I was at Ashland, I was engaged to Joe, and he came up and he helped out a little bit with the wrestling team, and so that was fun to see. We got married shortly after that. We're going on year 28. We've got 3 children. All 3 of them were born and raised in Huntington, West Virginia. I was just laughing. My daughter called me last night, pretty late, FaceTime. She was reminiscing. She's just graduated from IU. And she was reminiscing with some friends, and she's about to be employed. I'm excited to get her off the payroll. And then she's getting married at the end of July, but she was reminiscing. Do you remember, Mom, when I told you were ruining my life by uprooting me from Huntington, West Virginia, and bringing us to Bloomington? And now she was crying about having to leave her friends and go out into the workforce, right? Happy tears, of course. But it is kind of, ironic when you look, even, family for me, is and still is a value. And so when we looked at making that move from Huntington to Bloomington, we thought, do we do this? We're comfortable. Our family's rooted here. You're talking 18 years of deep love, wide love and, community ties. And now you flash forward 8 years later, and my daughter graduated from the Kelley School of Business, which is a tremendous degree. She met her future husband here. She's about ready to get married now, is gainfully employed. And so you just never know what's on the horizon, what's next. That's why it's so important to stick to your core values and what's true to you and honor those. And at the end of the day, you wake up each day and you roll up your sleeves and you're excited to go to work. And, I'm just so, again, I think of the words of grateful and thankful, and I see how God has ordered those steps. So we've also got another daughter, Gianna, that's going to go to IU in the fall. So I'm excited about that. And then we have a son who does the wrestling thing, and they're actually on their way to Ashland as we speak, Joe and Josiah. So there's a tournament, and Joe he called a little bit ago and he said, "Can you believe I'm heading back to someplace special?" So I wish I would have had some time. We're portal diving right now, with this recruiting age. But Joe and Josiah are going to be in Ashland for the next couple of days.
That's tremendous. That's awesome.
Cool? Yeah.
Well, Shonda, this has been great. We're going to finish with your sales pitch for Ashland. For everybody who may not know, you were a GA here when I was an undergrad, so we both come a long way in almost 30 years. I don't even want to say 30 years, but we try to give everybody this last thing. So, Shonda, if you had a player you knew, family, their kids saying, "I want to go to Ashland University," or "I'm thinking about it," what would your sales pitch be? After IU, of course.
Yeah, right. Of course. Yeah. Well, I tell you, when you look at maybe even a strong tree, you've got to have good roots, and my roots were built there and sown there in Ashland. And I have such a strong foundation because of my time there, because of the people. You win with people, tremendous people. It is no joke when that, I don't know if the tower still says someplace special. Yep. Is that tower still there?
Yep.
But, I tell you, my experience was incredible in all three programs. My experience was incredible with all the people that I met. It's a great small town, college town. Everybody bleeds purple. But I would not hesitate in a moment if my kids weren't coming to IU to send them to Ashland. Incredible people. They're passionate. You guys are all passionate about your athletics. Big moments were made there and will continue to be made there. And I got to get back because it sounds like there's been tremendous growth as well. And that's what you always want to see. And, you got great leadership under Al King. So you can't go wrong there within the department. And it's just an incredible university as well.